Hello, Scribblers. I'm Katie, the founder and CEO of the Scribblers Den, your online source for writing craft courses and writing community. Today, we are interviewing the tremendous Linsey Miller. Once
Hello.
upon a time, Linsey Miller studied biology in Arkansas. These days, she holds an MFA in fiction and can be found writing about science and magic anywhere there is coffee. What's your favorite coffee order?
Oh, so I am allergic to milk. I'll just get that out of the way.
Okay,
Um, so I usually will get any sort of iced coffee with oat milk,
okay.
or um, I I like all espresso drinks. So,
Solid choice, solid choice. And oat milk is a solid choice. That is actually my cat's name is Oat Milk.
oh,
Yeah, so maybe she'll pop
wonderful.
in. Who knows? Maybe she like heard that and she's like, I'm on my way.
I hope so.
She is the author of The Mask of Shadows duology, right here. Belle Revolt, The Game, What We Devour, Prince of Song and Sea, Prince of Thorns and Nightmares, and I'm missing a Prince book.
Prince of Glass and Midnight.
Prince of Glass and Midnight. Thank you.
I might
She
not have
also,
updated my bio.
she also has two short stories in anthologies, and her debut, Mask of Shadows, received rave reviews, including being a fall 2017 Indie Next Pick, and it was on the ALA's Rainbows list for 2019. Her third young adult fantasy, What We Devour, was a 2022
I always say Lambda.
Lambda Awards
I should know.
finalist. Lindsay, thank you so much for chatting with us today.
Yeah. Thank you so much for letting me come hang out with you.
Yeah,
This
no,
is
I
exciting.
I love getting to talk to authors because like I'm an aspiring author in the sense of like I'm not published yet. Um and it just like you guys are my rock stars. So the fact I get to chat with you and get nerdy makes me so happy.
Yeah, well, no queuing required, no pit. You have to fight to the front floor.
I have fought for that. Like I went to BookCon back in the day and I it got vicious sometimes.
So I've never been to BookCon, but I'm doing a panel this year
Oh,
there.
have fun.
I know I don't have to wait in line, but I feel like I almost should to get the
The
experience.
whole experience. Yeah, I think I only waited in line really the first year I went, and then after that, I was on the ball, and I always made sure I had VIP tickets. So then I was in the shorter line.
Nice.
I don't know.
Yeah.
All right.
I feel like there's going to be lines no matter what.
Oh, yeah, they will, but it's gonna be you're gonna love it. I can't. I'm excited for you. I'm excited on your behalf.
Thank you.
So your debut, Mask of Shadows, came out in 2017, and since then you've published another eight novels. Fantastic. You've had short stories,
Thank you.
including in anthologies. Can you just give us like the highlight reel of your journey to being a traditionally published author?
Yeah. I what I now jokingly say is was going to go to medical school, had a small mental breakdown in college after my father died, graduated with a biology degree and was still going to go to medical school, realized I hated everything and that was making me very unhappy. Didn't know what I was going to do if I wasn't going to do that because that had been my plan since sixth grade. And I was living at the time with my then boyfriend, who I'm now married to, and our best friend. And so I promise this works its way into the highlight reel of my life, even though it feels long. Made a deal that I would just work at CVS and write a book and attempt to get an agent. And if I hadn't done that by the end of the year, that I would maybe look at other things to do. So I wrote a book and it was not good. And then I wrote a better book and I queried that for a while and I was in Pitch Wars, which isn't around anymore.
Yeah.
Um, and then I wrote Mask of Shadows, the first version of it at least. And I also at that time applied to the MFA program as like well, if this doesn't go anywhere, I'll get my MFA. I enjoyed tutoring and
Hmm.
everything, so maybe I will attempt to become a teacher or professor. Got accepted into the MFA program, got my agent, got the book deal. Um, and then it never stopped. And then things kept happening.
Yeah.
Um, so did Mask of Shadows, Rune of Stars, had a 1 year break
Mhm.
before Belle came out, and then I wrote the game, which is my lone thriller amongst my sea of fantasies. Um, I don't know. I've done a lot of really fun things. I met two of my favorite authors, Rosie Thor and Maria Mora, because I mentored them in Pitch Wars.
Yeah.
And now they are amazing authors who are surpassing me in every way, and I love every second of it. And most recently, post the Disney Prince series,
Yeah.
which I guess I should also mention. Around the After What We Devour came out, I Hunger Games fought other authors for the right to do the Disney Prince series. Um, and so for a while there, I had two things coming out every year. And then last year, I had my last non-Disney fantasy book come out, which was this,
Hmm.
which is That Double Ambition. And I have loved every moment of the last 10 years. And it feels very surreal that it is next year, the 10-year anniversary of Mask of Shadows.
That is absolutely wild. And just all of that. So when you were talking about working at CBS and writing a novel, and you
Yeah.
wrote two novels, did you do two novels in 1 year, or did you do like one, like,
No, I did one. I had written pieces of it when I was in college when I
okay,
should have been, doing other
as
things.
one does.
Yeah. I wrote that and it was pretty bad. And then I wrote Mask of Shadows after that had finished. I
Mhm.
I did query the first project to like 5 agents. And one of the pieces of advice I got was like, hey, this is a great idea, but your dialogue is very stilted. So I just worked very hard on making my dialogue much better.
Mhm.
And then Mask of Shadows was sort of the culmination of that.
So how
But yeah,
close is the version of Mask of Shadows that's published to like what you queried with? Is it fairly close, or did you do like a huge revision once you were agented?
I think it's very close.
Okay.
Um, the only thing that changed was the ending because
Interesting.
post for submission to editors, one of the things was at the time, young adult fantasies were largely sold as trilogies.
Mm,
So the ending of Mask of Shadows was a little open ended of I'll edit whatever you want, depending on if this book is a standalone or if
right.
this book is a trilogy or what it became, the duology. Um, so I think the ending had a lot of changes. There was a lot of tightening of scenes, but I think most of the large moving parts were the same.
That's awesome. Just because I know like sometimes an author will get that offer of rep and then they do it and then the book just becomes something completely different. And it's always a version that they're happy with. But they're like, yeah, so we tore it apart and we wrote something new. Um, so I think it's cool to get how close they were for what you actually queried to what ended up on my shelf.
Yeah, thankfully, it was weird. Mask of Shadows, I say it didn't change much. There were a
Mhm.
lot of edits that happened. Ruin of Stars, I think, had far more edits because I wrote Ruin of Stars in like 2 months.
Wow.
Mask of Shadows I had worked on for over a year, but Ruin of Stars sort of came together as a book within a much shorter time span
Mhm.
over the course of drafting it, editing it with the editor.
Yeah, because it was a two book deal, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think my deadline for Ruin of Stars for the draft before line edits, so all the big stuff had to be
Mhm.
fixed by then, was the day after my final the final day of Boston Teen Book Fest or
Oh,
Boston Teen Fest. And Sourcebooks had sent me and Ren Shupeko on like a little mini tour around that ended with Boston Fest.
yeah.
So I did all of those tours and Boston Teen Book Fest, and I think I had like 3 hours of sleep the whole time.
Fantastic. I think that that is something that we don't always think about is like as readers, I know especially that well, you had time maybe to work on the first book in a series, your timeline gets a lot tighter if it's sold as a
Oh
duology
yeah.
trilogy, and you're just like all of a sudden like, yeah, so now I have 2 months to get this done.
Yeah, it is working. I have learned to work under deadline. I quite
Hmm.
like having an external deadline, but there is a large difference in writing books and writing books under contract to
Yes.
publish them.
Yeah. Yeah. There's like a part of me I'm really excited to experience that one day, but the other part of me is terrified because I'm like, what if I fail?
It's fine. Okay, just ignore all of my negative comments and take only the positive ones.
Yes. Because I do think it just sounds like a lot of fun. And I am a person who loves a good deadline. I did all of my papers last minute in high school and college. Like,
Oh, yeah, then you'll love it
yeah,
in the same way that I love it, but also am exhausted by it.
yes,
The
100%.
deadlines are nice.
Yeah, yeah. One day I'm gonna get there.
You will.
So I had mentioned I've read Mask of Shadows and I'm nearly finished with Ruin of Stars, and I absolutely love Sal. Like, just my heart. They're so endearing and earnest, and it was a really refreshing take for me on the assassin like stereotype and character. Because I take my assassins very seriously in books. Um,
Well, then
and I was
I'm
very
glad they
happy.
captured your heart.
Oh yeah, that not only that, but like they actually kill people, and that to me was a huge like green flag because I can't tell you how many books I have read with an assassin character, and I'm like, this person has killed no one. Um, don't lie to me. So what I really love about it is just how visceral everything in your writing is, whether it's just like a quiet moment or a fight. Like there's a moment in there where Sal is with Eli Elisa.
Elise.
Elise, sorry.
Elise.
And like just like they just take each other's hands and you write it, and I'm like, oh my God, I can feel this happening. It was a beautiful moment. Um, so you have that way of really getting to the nooks and crannies of what it feels like. Is this how you draft, or is that something that you tend to bring out more in your revisions and editing process?
It is how I draft. Also, first off, thank you. Um,
Thank you for writing it.
it is nice to hear that that hit the way I wanted it to. I'm gonna talk about the writing versus drafting thing, and then I want to circle back around to something else. But
Yeah.
uh, I I have an odd drafting process that is the opposite of how most authors would tell you how to draft. I lively say that I trash draft whenever I'm asked this question on panels, and I know that I can't explain it for a very long time. But even when I am trash drafting, I spend too much time on single lines for scenes like that.
Okay.
So anytime I would like any sort of sensory detail in a scene or a fight, I spend too much time on it in the original draft, and then it sort of gets refined as time
Mm.
goes on. But I usually do try to have just the line there that I want until it sounds how I would like it.
It's so good. It is like, and just all the fight scenes. I love a good fight scene, and I'm just like, oh, that hurt. Like I could feel the blade going in or that skin. I'm like, oh, it's fantastic.
Oh,
Thank you.
yay. God, I haven't done fight scenes in so long since Mask of Shadows. Okay. And then I also want to circle back around. Yeah, I had rules for myself writing an assassin since Sal doesn't start out as an assassin.
Yeah.
I wanted them to kill people. I wanted them to think about the weight of killing people.
Hmm.
And then I also wanted to tie this assassin situation to Sal's revenge story. They desperately, desperately want to kill some very specific people, and they haven't really considered what that would mean. And I didn't want it to be a I'm as bad as them now
Hmm.
situation because personally, I don't think Sal is as bad as them. And also,
Agreed.
I wanted to explore the concept of in a fantasy world where we so often have these archetypal characters like assassins or politicians or mages that are affecting the world they're in. What does it mean for there to be sanctioned state assassination?
Yes.
Um, so Sal had to kill people. Sal had to have emotions about that and who that meant they were. Um, and I also didn't want to ship. I didn't want it to read like Sal was in the wrong for killing people, because what are you going to do with them if you don't do that in this world?
Yeah. It is. It's very
Um,
complex and it makes you feel some sort of way. Like I'm 100% on board with everything Sal's doing, but at the same time, I'm like, wait, they're also killing people. This isn't good. And I think
yeah,
he handled that
excellent.
complexity
Then it worked.
really well. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. I will say my future books just get so much weirder from Ruin of Stars on.
Yeah. I'm excited.
Um,
Like I gotta keep buying them. I will read the
and I
rest,
hope you enjoy
especially,
them.
yeah.
They get
Um,
so much weirder.
yeah, Rosie gave a
Um,
very highly good recommendation for that Devil Ambition. So I'm very excited for
oh
that.
yeah, they blurbed it. It was
Yeah.
very nice of them. Um, but that is also one of the early scenes, is one of the first scenes I had written for Mask of Shadows. And it is one of the scenes that had an edit the first time, and during its first round of edits with my editor. It's the scene where Sal steals the ring and hides it so that it's not taken by Grell.
Yeah.
I have not talked about this book in so long, and yet the names are still in my head. It's sort of miraculous. Originally, Sal cut open their own arm and put the ring inside the cut,
Yeah.
just as sort of a safe place for it to be, because I knew no one would reach inside of a wound. Um, that was too much for young adult for the opener. So just hid it in a bandage.
Yeah.
And then I also believe, I actually don't remember what this ended up being in the actual book now that it's been so long. Sal originally carried Grell's head to auditions.
Oh, yeah. It was just the hand.
Yeah, it was originally Grell's whole
Mhm.
head.
Which you
That was a
actually
little
talk
too
about
much.
in the novel because I think when they ask Sal why they didn't bring the head, they're like, I wasn't carrying that around. Like, you know how much that would rot
Yeah,
and decompose? So you even called yourself out on it. It was
yeah,
great.
I did. It'd be so gross by the time Sal got there.
Yeah. No, and it was just like just these great details. I absolutely like I'm enjoying it so much. I'm also, as I told you before we started the interview, like I'm very stressed because a lot of things are happening. And I am worried for people. So, what
I'm sorry. I'm so
not
sorry.
sorry. Hashtag not sorry. Yeah. It's really good. Like I'm having the best time of my life. So thank you.
I'm so glad. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for telling me that.
Scribblers, you should read these because not only are they just good books, but like lots of craft to be learned here. Um, so you have written three books for Disney that are focused on the classic fairy tale princes. What was it like working with Disney IP kind of in particular because Disney is just like its own beast? And how much leeway did you have with some of the different aspects of the stories?
Uh, it was much, I didn't think it would be bad to work with Disney. It
Mhm.
was much nicer than I thought it would be.
Oh, nice.
I really liked my editors while I was there. Um, I I went into it knowing that they would be the Prince's versions of the movies. So I knew each book would essentially have line for line the
Okay.
movie dialogue, the movie scenes, and that I would have to slot all the scenes I wanted to add into perfectly into the movies.
Hmm.
So I knew that I would not have any leeway in sort of timing or dialogue or anything like that. I didn't know that I would have as much leeway as I ended up having. Um, I think, yeah, I guess I did add a lot, even to The Little Mermaid, even to Prince
Hmm.
Eric's book, which I think he has the most screen time out of any of the princes from that decade, that era.
Yeah.
But yeah, they let me do a lot of things. I got to do sword fights and a bunch of queer side characters and romances
That's awesome.
and a bunch of romantic scenes. I got to, in the Little Mermaid one, like build a giant kraken out of heels. So like I had, because they're not canon and because each
Mhm.
book they do is not canon, every single book or series is sort of its own world that the author gets to world build. So I
Okay.
didn't have to take anything else into account
That's nice. So it's a
except
little
for
bit
the
like an alternate
original animation.
universe.
Yeah, we
Okay.
each sort of like me. the Twisted Tales series, all of them are like their own little pocket universes. And so I think it's very fun because I got to world build from the ground up. Like a lot of them don't have country names
Right.
or kingdom names. Like Prince of Thorns and Nightmares, I got like a little packet with details of just like the basic stuff of what I should
Mm.
know about what they were thinking when they made the original movies. But the rest of it, it was just what I wanted to do. And so it was really, really delightful to go through just the historical references they had used.
Hmm.
Be like, okay, now how can I turn this into good book material?
That's
Because I
awesome.
can't animate it prettily like they did.
Right.
But yeah, so I think Prince of Thorns and Nightmares, which is my favorite one,
Mhm.
sounds very different from the other two because I tried to make it much more medieval,
Okay.
since the other two are a little more not contemporary but recent. Like
Yeah.
Cinderella is much more of
Yeah,
a
it's
recognizable
further,
age.
yeah, and further on the timeline, like with the setup and the ball and
Yeah.
like their technology. So yeah. No, I'm gonna have to check those out too. I'm very excited. Like I didn't even know that those existed. And I'm like, oh, like good for
Yeah.
Disney for giving the princess a point of view.
Yeah. It was also really nice to write male characters.
Hmm.
That Devil Ambition also has a male point of view character. It has three point of view characters. One is Fabian.
Hmm.
I I was pretty hesitant to write a male main character point of view, but I found it very enjoyable and
Yeah.
very interesting. Uh, yeah, it was much nicer than I thought it would be, though I did have to buy Disney Plus so I could watch the movies on repeat when I was writing them.
That makes sense. Yeah, I do love the idea of Disney Plus. I think it's great. My only beef with them is that I'm a big Taylor Swift fan and I don't have Disney Plus, so I can't watch the Eras Tour movie.
I'm
And
so sorry.
I'm like, please, like, just put it out on DVD. I will pay you an obscene amount of money to own it. So,
Yeah, I'm about 2 weeks away from just deciding that I will only own DVDs now, no subscription
yes.
services.
Yeah, we have definitely gone that way with subscriptions. And I'm like, I still have Netflix because I'm very much addicted to K-dramas. So,
Mm-hmm.
that's that feeds my soul
You
right.
gotta be.
So, you started publishing your first duology, and since then you've only written standalones. So was this an intentional shift? Okay, do tell.
Um, so in young adult, there was post the trilogy craze sort of a we sort of moved away from it
Yes.
because publishers saw that trilogies after the first book weren't selling as well as they would have liked unless they were best-selling trilogies
Hmm.
or series. So I had I didn't have a contract for another book, the Source books after Ruin of Stars, but they had the option to see my next YA fantasy first. And they said basically the idea was standalones are the way to go in young adult because then you
Hmm.
don't have the whole issue of selling the sequel and or the series getting canceled if the
Yes.
first book doesn't sell, which had been happening several times over. Um, so I did Bell Revolt. It was so long, so very long in its first draft. Um, but they also it was a 2 book deal, so it was for 2 standalones. So that
Okay.
is sort of how I got locked into doing those two. And then the game was also just sort of like a, well, I have this chance to write a thriller. Let me see if I can situation.
And it worked. So,
And it worked. And the Prince books are also basically standalones.
mhm.
They
Yeah,
don't
like they're all like
interconnect in any
in a
way.
series, but yeah, they're also their own stories because none of them really overlap.
No, I don't think I even have references to them in a
Yeah.
fun way. And they're all completely separate. Um, and then young adult is very much still in a sort of it's a standalone unless you're their lead title
Yes.
or bestseller already. So I was like, I have an idea for one book. It's a bunch of kids who have to kill their professor,
Which is
and
fantastic.
it has an end point, because they have to graduate
Yes.
or they die. So I sold it as a standalone. And it's also part of a 2-book deal. So my next young adult fantasy, which comes out next year, and there's no information out about it yet, is also a standalone.
Okay. I'm excited.
I've created so many magic systems. I love all of my books. I'm so tired of creating new magic systems.
Do you think you would ever like just take two of your books and like combine them, like do a spin-off and like it's like this book meets this book, and so now you have the two different types of magics like going at it with like
Yeah, I think
descendants
I
of those
could
characters?
pretty solidly do that for What We Devour and that Devil
Hmm.
Ambition. I think Severance and the magic system in What We Devour is the humans in that world ate the gods basically ages and ages ago and gained either noble rights or vile rights based on the sort of vile rights can destroy, noble rights can create.
Okay.
I think I could combine that with the magic system in that Devil Ambition, which is separating your soul from your body.
Oh my gosh, that's
And
amazing.
also there are devils and angels pretty
Yes.
easily. Um, so I think that would work pretty well.
So it'd be like a
Belle,
spin-off sequel, but also not.
yeah, I could just do a coffee shop AU with all the characters
Yeah.
combining their magic systems. Um, the Belle characters, I joked that that was my fun, happy, non-stressful book between my two really dark books. But that magic system is also incredibly dark. I don't know. I have no idea.
No, I think having like I like darker magic systems, so I don't know if that's just like a bias. But I like when there's a difficulty to it or like a price that feels personal, like something more than just like, oh, like I had to kill a flower. Like, no.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, the Bell magic system, is my Prince and the Pauper retelling about two
Mhm.
girls who swap places.
Yeah,
Um, the artist of that world is what they're called. They channel magic through their bodies. So rich people hire artists to channel magic for them so that their bodies don't wear out. And so they just go through people who are channeling for them.
which is wild. I love it.
Yeah.
I'm
Thank
excited.
you. I was really proud of that book.
You should be.
I quite
Absolutely.
enjoyed it.
Yeah. No, and I think it's really like I know that you've had to create a lot of magic systems, but I do think that that's really awesome that you have written so many standalones. Um, my my first book was intended to be like the first thing I ever wrote, which was also bad, was supposed to be a trilogy. My second thing that I ever wrote, a trilogy. And then my third book, finally, I wrote a standalone. And I'm actually like I'm so proud of myself for learning to do that as a fantasy author, just because I think like many of us, we go into it like, okay, I have this idea for 8,000 books, and here's what I'm going to do. And that's not what publishing wants. And it did take me 3 books to get to that point to be like, okay, fine, I'll play by your rules.
Yeah. Congratulations, first
Thank
off.
you.
And yeah, it is a good skill to have. I
Mm,
would really love, it doesn't even have to be about the same characters. I would just love to reuse a world.
yes. Yeah. And actually my second book, no, my standalone book, and then the book that I'm actually querying right now, it's in the same world. So I was like, that's it, I'm done. I'm using the same world, completely different things, hundreds of years apart. So there's
So fun
references back and
fact.
forth, and I'm like, done. Easter eggs for myself.
Fun fact. Mask of Shadows, the world, I reused it from my first book. The first book I wrote was going to be the first in a trilogy about a blacksmith who has to find the missing goddess of truth and knowledge and justice to save her brother who has the plague.
Love it.
Um, and it's mentioned in Mask of Shadows. In the back matter of Mask of
Oh,
Shadows,
okay.
there's just a history of the world. Berengard is the country that book took place in. It's the one to the east of Igna. over the
Yeah,
mountains that no one's heard from in 9 years.
I love that. I love
So
that. Yeah,
there's a book about it.
I
And
do think that
I don't
there
know.
like more authors should do things like that. I know like Laini Taylor did it with Daughter of Smoke and Bone, and then when you reach Strange the Dreamer, when you get to the second book, Muse of Nightmares, you're like, wait, there's a crossover here, and it's really cool. Um,
Yeah. I was so tempted in that Devil Ambition to just have the professor is a devil
mhm.
and they live primarily in the underworld for most of the time. I was so tempted to have him mention a character from What We Devour because they fit so well together, but I restrained myself.
Oh my gosh. No, I think I want authors to do that. I love like if I see a little Easter egg like that, I'm like, wait a second, this is from something else completely that they did, and but they put it in here. So if I'm ever your editor, I say do it.
Well, Surat Ansley, the physician that Isadora's whole school of magic learned from, is the god of death in my other book that was never
Okay.
published.
All right. So
He wasn't a god yet when he taught them things,
yeah,
though.
I love this. Love this. Um, so you are an advocate for queer literature, and themes of identity are shown so beautifully in your stories. In fantasy, the characters and worlds often don't have that same vocabulary options that we do in our world. So how do you go about kind of sharing information with a reader without actually coming out and saying
I accept that about half the people who read the book are going to hate it, and the other half are going to like it.
it? Fair.
Um, so yeah, I think with Sal, I just sort of explained it in a way I would explain it to someone if I
Mhm.
didn't know what the word non-binary was. In Belle, Annette describes being ace as going through life and feeling like she's missed a stair and just sort of having that feeling of something's different. I
Mhm.
missed something, but I don't know what it is.
Yeah, that is a great way to describe that.
Thank you. Um, and I like that. I I don't like the concept of making my own language or my own words for something in
Mhm.
fiction. I like instead the idea of providing real words that someone in our world could still use
Yeah.
or like see themselves in. I think, yeah, I think I've done that in all of my books where it's either there's no explanation or
Mhm.
just here's how I would describe my existence even if I were in like the real world.
Yeah.
And we're just going to put it into the fantasy world and maybe use a fantasy metaphor.
No, that makes
And
sense.
yeah, I will occasionally get tagged in a review and part of it will be like, I wish authors would just use the word in fiction. I was like, I understand that. And it is a perfectly valid
Yeah.
response to it. But I think, particularly for my age group,
Mhm.
it was much more relatable to not know the word,
Yes.
even when you were an older teen.
Absolutely.
Um, I think that is less of a feeling, particularly for Western audiences these days.
Mhm.
But having a character explain it and relating to that, I could relate to much more strongly than just using the word because I'd be like, what does this mean?
Yes. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I agree. I don't like I love labels because I think it's a really quick way to like be able to communicate with people at points, but also I like just like that ambiguousness of it, and describing like
Yeah.
the feeling or the thought process because that I think is what hits harder um with people who don't know those words and don't have that same vocabulary, like you said, especially like older generations. So like I'm 45. It took me a long time to figure out all the words, and I'm like, wait a second. Now I can tell you exactly what I am, but before I was like,
Yeah.
something, I have missed a step.
I also, I never really wanted to feel like the one thing I always shy against is like, I don't want my character to end up being like the ambassador of
Right.
whatever identity they are. Um, like this my book is not a learning opportunity for
Right.
identity. if I do that, you'll know. My book is a learning opportunity for morality and what
Hmm.
killing people means or politics.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I've always just tried to think of it in other ways. For my short stories, though, they do. I have three now. I think all of them just feel like I'm ace. Man, people are weird
Boom.
about it.
Yeah. But in
And then
short stories, you don't
inevitably,
have as
someone's
much,
like, maybe,
yeah, you don't have as much real estate to play with word wise. So sometimes you just got to be a little bit more direct.
yeah. It's like I can't make a nice metaphor. I
No.
don't have time.
Oh, no, you do. I think you do a really good job of it. And actually, one of the things I really like about Ruin of Stars is it moves into that found family trope, and it is like my favorite thing. It's my second favorite trope in the world, and I will always take found family. So, yeah.
Yeah, I that was one of the things I spent a lot of time talking to people who read Mask of Shadows
Mhm.
before while Ruin of Stars was getting written, like because I went to all of those Boston Teen Book Fest. And I just remember being like, I wish Sal had met more queer people or
Yes.
gay people. And I was like, yeah, me too. Because in my head, I didn't do it because I was like, they're all gonna die.
Yes.
And I don't want to kill them all off. So I was like, the sequel is the opportunity for this.
Hmm.
And I also I really going into it, like I knew when I wrote Mask of Shadows that the left hand was majority other queer people because I really wanted Sal eventually to meet adults who had lived their lives
The same.
and
Yeah.
were
Like
like,
not the same, but like with those same
yeah,
challenges and yeah.
yeah, with similar challenges and who had grown up and were old
Mhm.
and like had fulfilling
Elders.
lives.
They are
Yeah.
elders. Yes. Yeah, I remember there's like one point where I think Sal meets two other people, and the one person is like, "Yeah, you like sometimes we just get together and talk about it." And I was just like, "Oh, they have a support group. Like this is so cute."
Oh, yeah. I think that's the breakfast scene where Emerald's like,
Yeah,
this is Roland.
yeah. There's just like a whole
You'll
bunch of
see him.
fantastic. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I don't
like
know.
you didn't need to have those words in there. Like my brain was just like, "Oh wow, this is great."
Yeah, part of that was just me going, I don't want this to happen.
Yeah, no, I think that's a perfect. It's a beautiful little cookie, and you get to it, and you're like, "Well, I'm just gonna gobble this up." So.
Yeah, I have a bad habit of recycling the same archetype in all my books, but I
Mhm.
love giving the main characters slightly older mentors.
Yes.
It's like in Belle, there's uh Lauren de Montemer and Estrelle Sherode, who are also just absolute queer disasters of their own. What we devour
And they are
sort
the
of
best
has
characters.
that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know. I like it when the main character can see like not themselves as an adult, but like some version of themselves.
Yes. It's important. Like I know, like for me, it's important as an educator. Like I want those younger kids to see, like, here I am, like I'm successful. I'm living, like I have a lot of friends, I have a lot of support, I have all these things around me because I didn't necessarily see that growing up. And if I had, I would have figured this out a lot sooner.
Yeah, that was also one of the things I don't remember where I read it now. So at the same time I was writing Moss, two things happened. I was having conversations with my best friend, and we were talking about queering spaces and just making one, even when you're not queer,
Mhm.
a space readily queerly accessible or visibly queerly
Yeah.
accessible. And I was like, okay, let's do that in books. Um, and then also, I remember just reading a bunch online from a bunch of different authors or readers. God, I wish I remembered who now. About what I now call like casual
Mhm.
queerness.
This is oat milk, by the way.
Oat milk.
Yeah, this
You're
is
the
her,
best milk.
and it's her birthday. She's 3 today, so
Oh, Bill, you're
Please
so
continue. Sorry that she
distinguished.
interrupted.
Oh, no, no, you're fine. My dog would interrupt if he could jump this high. Um, so like I had read a bunch of just the casual whiteness and straightness
Hmm.
of a lot of side characters and background characters that are just in books in passing. And so I sort of tried to internalize that very specifically when I was writing Mask of
Yeah.
Shadows. And like it's still when I write. Um, so just the idea of even the characters that aren't on screen or aren't named, of
Mhm.
just making sure that the world is populated
Yes.
with realistic characters for people to sort of just tick off in their mind of like, oh, huh, they're like me or
Yeah.
something.
I think that's so important. So I'm so glad that you do that.
Thank you.
Um, so I would love to zoom out on your creative process. Can you just kind of walk us through like a project from the idea stage to handing that draft into your agent or editor for us?
Yeah. So recently it's been, well, I should step back myself. There are two. There's the I'm not under contract process,
Hmm.
and then there's the I'm under contract process. So,
Okay.
like for that Devil Ambition, I wasn't under contract. So I had time to sort of ruminate on the concept and build the world and go through a few like small drafts of details about the world. I
Hmm.
like to build out the world first and the main characters so that I can have sort of the big picture stuff like to help me move the plot along so
Yeah.
that I know like what is reasonable within this world for plot points to happen. Um, and so I usually ruminate on things for a very long time. I just have my notes app on my phone. I can show
Okay.
it. Where I have just collected an absolutely
Oh,
bananas
wow.
amount of book notes.
Yeah. And they're
Oh,
color
it's not even
coded.
showing all of
Beautiful.
them. An absolutely bananas amount of book
Yeah.
notes of just concepts and characters and world building and facts that I want to use. Um, like one of the projects I am not under contract of, but I would like to work on soon is a horror novel.
Hmm.
And I have been considering this concept and the two concepts that it came from that I smashed together last year when I realized they worked better as one for like 3 years. So I really like to mull over them. I haven't gotten to do that in a while until that Devil Ambition.
Yeah.
Um, so then the other process is when I'm under contract, which is you tell them what you're writing, or they already know what you're writing, and then you have to write it, and you have a deadline. Um, Usually that is much more of a I will trash draft it, and I
Okay.
still like to have like the big swaths of world building done so that I know the basic things that are allowed within the world or things
Hmm.
that would reasonably happen or the consistency of the world.
Yeah. Like the basic parameters.
Yeah, and but I am much more loose with the details or the characters. So the book I'm working on now that comes out next year went through I think one more round of developmental edits than that Devil
Mhm.
Ambition just because it took the first two edits just to get sort of to the same level of this is the world that I want.
Okay.
I changed the magic system on the second level. Like Bell Revolt, the magic system changed after the second edit.
Hmm.
Um so it is much more open on my first draft. I usually just have the characters where they start and where I want them to end up,
Okay.
and sort of the larger part of the world and a few small details. And then on the next draft, things get changed a lot from there.
Okay. Interesting. Are you like, once you get notes back from your agent or editor, are you able to do like a fairly quick turnaround for most edits, like unless it's something really big that you have to do?
Yeah, it depends. I personally like to rewrite from the ground up
Okay.
for like a bit anything that is a big edit,
Hmm.
which isn't always feasible, because sometimes they would like to see all the changes and track changes. And If you get so many of those in Word, it'll stop working
Yes, it will.
for no reason. Um, so if I don't have to keep track changes on, I just sort of like to start. I use Scrivener, so I dual screen Scrivener, and I have
Okay.
the old draft on one side, and then I'll just start typing from the ground up, and I'll have like a list of the changes that I want to
Mhm.
do and where I need to slot them into the book or where I need to move things around
Okay.
or any new scenes I need to add, and then I'll just sort of add those in as I go.
Very cool. Um, yeah, I don't even, it takes me a long time to come up with ideas, and then I have to like spitball it for a long time before I actually start writing. So, but I have no deadline, so I can do whatever I want.
It's
Um,
fun, but it's its own different kind of panic.
yes, yes, it is. So you have published both long and short form stories. Do you have a preference of which you like to write and why?
Long, long stories, novels.
Awesome.
So I have an MFA. It's a what I would call a traditional MFA.
Hmm.
It's in fiction. It's not in children's literature. It
Okay.
wasn't low res. I was in Wichita for 3 years studying all the stuff I didn't learn when I was in college. Um, and I very much enjoyed it. But I wrote a lot of short stories while I was there, and I found it
Mhm.
very difficult at first to get used to it. However, I find it quite nice now to write short stories. So
Okay.
while I still prefer to write novels, short stories don't pain me as much as they used to.
Good to know.
Yeah, I also just hadn't read that many short stories. I
Mhm.
think the short stories I had read prior to that were mostly longer form short stories.
Mhm. Or the traumatic ones that your high school English teacher probably made you read.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or like the giant just anthology of the
Yes.
best science fiction and fantasy short stories of the last decade.
Yes.
And all of those are sort of longer than most short stories that you would publish in young adult anthologies. So it took a while for me to wrap my head around it, but I was
Mhm.
very thankfully surrounded by a bunch of very good professors and also a lot of very good writers who were also students in the MFA
Yeah.
program who wrote really fantastic things and really knew how to utilize. They were concise, just the utilization of a few words
Hmm.
was wonderful.
Okay.
So, yeah,
So would those kind of be your tips to trying to get into short story writing? Because I struggle with it. I cannot do it.
I would read a lot of short
Okay.
stories. And also, I find short stories. I find coming up with the concept for a short story very similar to the idea of coming up with a book.
Hmm.
And but the main difference for me is the character is one who can solve their problem much faster.
Okay.
Like they are in that moment solving the problem,
That makes a lot
or
of,
the problem is about to come to a head.
yeah. And I think that's my big problem because I'm so used to those like I read long form. I very rarely read short stories. Like if I have to or if I know the author personally, I'm like, I will read your story because I like you. But I do not enjoy reading them in
Yeah,
general. So that's a good
I
point.
think
Like that they're
reading
solved so
them
quickly.
also, I mean, show don't tell is good advice, but for the
Hmm.
same reason, you sometimes do need to tell in books.
Yes.
Specifically in short stories, you need to tell much more
Yeah.
often and in a much more precise manner
Hmm.
because you have so much less space in a short story to get the same sort of emotional resonance from your
Yes.
reader. So you have to be very careful about what you choose to tell them
Hmm.
and how you do it. So I think just remembering that it is okay to break the rules in short stories because your medium is now different.
That does make sense. Yeah. Those are good tips. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm
I
glad
keep wanting to
they
try it
work.
'cause I'm like, I want to do it in like I want to do it like a whole anthology, but I would love to submit. And I'm like, I just I don't have the
Yeah,
energy
I
right
will
now.
say writing a short story is much easier, I think, when someone hands you the theme.
Yeah. Yeah, like gives me a little bit something to set up for it. I can do
Yeah,
it.
I don't find myself writing short stories in my spare time.
Your spare time. It's just like I just wrote a short story while I was drinking my coffee. So, dark academia. This is, I think, for me, has been a genre that's become increasingly popular, especially in YA. So, your premise in that Devil Ambition is that in order to pass their honors class, the students need to kill their professor. What drew you to writing dark academia book, and kind of what do you feel are the essential elements of that genre?
Uh, Me being in academia, I so I don't have student loan debt, and I think that's a very important start to this. And I don't have student loan debt because I got a full scholarship to
Okay.
college, based on my test scores. However, that scholarship was dependent upon me keeping a very high GPA.
Mm.
And then my father died, and I failed organic chemistry. And I went quite literally broke paying for
Mm.
summer courses so I could still meet my GPA requirement. I also just didn't have any time outside of that.
Right.
Um, and I kept my scholarship, but so that Devil Ambition was sort of born from that period of me looking out over the bridge and being like, I could get hit by a car right now, and I think they'd have to pay me. Just
Yeah.
like, what am I going to do? I was told for a very long time that if I went to college, I would get a good job
Yeah.
and everything would be fine. I don't think that's true anymore. And just sort of as an 18, 19, 20
Hmm.
year old having the realization of like, oh, the world I'm in is not the same world of my parents. And
Yeah.
also they were wrong. And also I think someone lied to all of us.
Yes. Those I feel all of those things are resonating in my bones right now. Yes.
Yeah. And at the same time, I went to a private school because they gave me the scholarship.
Mm.
But a lot of my friends also, one, either had the scholarship or had student loan debt.
Yeah.
So, like, every part of my life was either touched by killing yourself to try and keep your grade up to keep the scholarship, or killing yourself to get into med school, or killing
Hmm.
yourself because you were working to be able to afford college and pay off your loan.
Yes.
So there was no part of my life within that period, and even still now, where that is not something that comes up regularly.
Yeah.
So it came from that. And just also this concept of I was a good student. And a good student doesn't complain. A good student doesn't take a break. A
Yes.
good student doesn't listen even when their professors say, hey, maybe you shouldn't do this. A good student just does their work and gets good
Mhm.
grades and then graduates.
Yeah.
So I really, really wanted to dissect the concept of the good student in that Devil Ambition, but through the
Mhm.
lens of the three point of view characters. Fabian, the first point of view character, is a good student in the way that I was a good student. He has made it his whole personality. He messes up his hair and gets ink splotches on his hands so that he looks like a good student. He doesn't wear a coat when it's cold because his teachers don't wear a coat. But he doesn't quite understand why it matters to him, but they see him doing the things they
Yeah.
do and imitating them. So I wanted to really explore that thought process.
Hmm.
And the joking way to describe it is the insufferable teenage Linsey Miller. Um, but then I also wanted to explore this idea of breaking yourself down in order to achieve what you want because you were told that if you get it, everything will be fine.
Okay.
Not great, but just fine.
Yeah, if you achieve this, it'll work out somehow. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think dark academia, and I'm sure there are people who write dark academia who will disagree with me, but I think at its core, dark academia must in some manner be a critique, not necessarily of the academic institution, but of the academic mindset that has been replicated specifically when it is tied to financials and when it is for profit.
Agreed.
Um, I also think that dark academia is sort of inherently a horror genre, specifically cosmic horror,
Yeah.
because I think it is this great unknowable of you do not know the inner workings of the beast that is the school.
Yes.
So I brought all of that to that Devil Ambition, which is just a very fun examination of 13 kids trying to kill their professor, who I describe as if Miss Frizzle were evil, lawful evil.
Yeah. Yes. No,
Yeah.
I'm so excited to read it. I cannot wait to pick up a
Thank
copy.
you. I hope you like it. I'm sorry.
That's like a guarantee that I'm gonna like it. So I
Yeah.
love me a good tragedy. Like when the more people who die, I'm like, I love this so much more.
Yeah. I sort of similarly how I wrote Mask of Shadows because I wanted a young adult assassin character who killed people.
Yeah,
I wrote that Devil Ambition because I think Dark Academia is inherently a tragedy and that most aren't written as tragedies.
that makes sense.
They have the happily ever after.
Hmm. And I
That Devil
do
Ambition
also, yeah, go ahead.
doesn't. No, I was just gonna say that Devil Ambition is at its heart a tragedy because each of the three main characters, Fabian, Credence, and Euphemia,
Mhm.
kill some part of themselves
Yes.
during the course of this year in the
Yeah,
honors class.
yeah. Um, no, that's so exciting. And I feel like other people I know who have written dark academia books, they like you, they have gone through like that dark period in college or graduate work or like all these different things. And they're like, I just have to process my feelings. And so then they write these amazing
Yeah.
books. And so it's very relatable as you go through. You're like, yes, I too have done that.
Yeah. I when I was getting my MFA, I was also a teaching assistant for those three
Mhm.
years. And I had two classes every semester. And I just remember thinking, like, I have all my classes today. And then I have to teach these children.
Mhm.
And then also the children are paying an awful lot of money to the school.
Yep.
But then I know my own professors aren't getting paid an awful lot. And then just doing like the calculus of
Of that. Yeah.
nonsense.
It is. It's wild. And like you said, I think looking at the academics and like the college and universities of today are not what our parents went to. Like,
Yeah. I mean,
it is,
my dad didn't even go to college. He couldn't
yeah.
afford it. So my mom was an English teacher.
Mhm.
Um, and she did go to college, though she had a very different college experience than I did. She went to
Yeah.
college in like the 70s.
And that was my mom. And I think she spent like, I think she said her total tuition for like her 4 years was under $6,000.
Yeah,
I'm like,
my
how? How
school,
did you do that?
I love my college that I went to, not just because they paid for me to attend and
Mhm.
helped me figure out what to do to keep my scholarship,
Yeah.
because there was some in the weeds nonsense that had to be dealt with because it was a state scholarship.
Mm.
But tuition when I was there was around $35,000 per semester.
Yes.
And I just remember being in class like, not everyone in here has loans or a scholarship.
Uh-huh.
How did they do that?
Yeah. It's
And it's
wild.
just like, oh, there's two very different worlds happening within this one smaller world.
Hmm. Yeah, it is. It's eye-opening. And when you get there, you're just like, wait, everything I thought I
Yeah.
knew no longer applies. It's wild.
Yeah. So in that Devil Ambition, there's the honors class, which are kids
Mhm.
who volunteer to get into this class so that they can hopefully win tuition waivers. And then there's everyone else.
Yeah.
But if you graduate as an honors student, you get a bunch of accolades and different rewards, and you're basically guaranteed a perpetual job and a
Yeah.
good life.
Which is very important. So yeah.
Yeah.
Worth having to kill your professor for.
Yeah. To be fair, he is a devil.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's not like a human. So I did
And
like that one.
yeah, he does get to kill them whenever they fail an attempt or if they don't kill him before graduation.
Yeah. Which is wild. I would be the procrastinator in that group project. I'd be like, I think we got another week, guys. Like let's not.
Okay, well, you're really going to love one side character.
Excellent.
and maybe one of the main characters.
Cool. Cool.
Um, but
I will
yeah,
be
that Devil
emailing you when I'm
Ambition.
done. Don't you worry.
Okay, excellent. I will take any and all messages about things you hate me for, things you liked, things you didn't like. Yeah, that Devil Ambition is a tragedy.
Hmm.
I did not know how to market that when it was coming out because I was like,
Yeah.
there's romance. Also, the book's a tragedy.
Yes. Yeah, that's right up my alley. I'm trying to think. There was some, I can't think of the book now, but it wasn't billed like as a tragedy, but I got to the end and both of the main characters died. And I was like, why did they not tell us this was beautiful? Like I love this book. I can't think of what it was now.
They both die at the end?
It wasn't, no, it was a fantasy,
No.
something with birds like sparrow.
Hmm.
I don't know. I got it in a book box and it's got like pretty sprayed edges. And I can't think of what it is now, but it's really good. I'll figure it out when I do my edits in the end, and I'll post a little picture, guys, of whatever it is. I'll put the cover right down there. Um,
Just
but
put it
yeah,
over my face.
no, absolutely not. You're the star of the show. So you kind of mentioned a little bit that you have another book coming out. Can you give us any intel on that, or is it completely like until it's officially announced?
Um, I'm at my wit's end with it.
Okay.
It's a young adult fantasy novel
Hmm.
that is
Get on it publishing. I'll add all of that and it'll just be me saying get on it publishing. That's it.
perfect. That'll
Um,
be our secret.
yes. Be like, do it. I need this book. I learned about this book. And I'll just like do it like a little secret thing. It'll be really cool.
Yeah.
Secret talks. There'll be a musical interlude. Um, all right. Are you ready for your lightning round questions?
Yes.
Okay. So, one, you originally studied biology. What is the weirdest biology fact that you can share with us?
The average weight of the human head is around 10 pounds,
Ooh,
10 to 12 pounds.
okay. So I like knowing things like that because then, like, if I do weigh myself, like, I start doing maths in my head and I'm like, okay,
Your head's
so
about 10 pounds.
head is 10 pounds. And I'm like, okay, like, how much are the girls right now? Like, like, where am I feeling? Like, what kind of boots? Like, and I just start taking those off and I'm like, oh, my hair is longer. So that's at least like 2 pounds of hair. We're like, right. Um,
Yeah.
I get it
Just
down.
always subtract 10 pounds for your head.
Important to know. Important to know. Um, All right, two, you have been kidnapped, and the characters from the last TV show or book you've read have to rescue. Who are they, and will they succeed?
It's the characters from The Pit because the new episode came out the other night. And I think I'll be fine.
Yeah,
I think they're all very effective and good at their jobs.
yes, yeah. You're like you will be rescued, and they're gonna patch you up, so you'll be good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll be perfectly healthy by the end of it. Healthier, probably.
yes, that's amazing. I don't think I would survive. I just watched. It's a Korean cooking show, so I'm gonna have a really
Oh,
good meal, but they're not getting me out of anything.
a final meal is important.
It is very important, so I'll take it. All right, question three. Your favorite breakfast food?
I eat the same breakfast every day,
Fascinating.
so I feel like I have to say that. I eat oatmeal every day,
Okay, what do you put
with
in it? Like just plain or?
chia seeds, walnuts,
Mhm.
some protein powder, because I also don't eat red meat. Sorry, this
Okay.
is going to become just a long list of my dietary restrictions. I don't eat red meat because my babysitter as a child was a vegetarian, and I
Mhm.
really wanted to be like her,
Yeah.
but we lived in Arkansas, so there weren't really any options other than cheese, and that made me sick. So
Yeah.
the I stopped eating red meat, and now I just continue doing it out of spite for people who say, "Why not just stop?" Um, And then apples,
Okay.
stewed apples with cinnamon.
Yeah, that sounds really good, actually.
It
Yeah.
is, it's good enough that I eat it every day.
Yeah, no. Oatmeal's a solid choice. So,
Yeah, I used to not eat breakfast, so this is a
mhm,
huge improvement for me.
yeah.
Because
I went
otherwise, my
through a
answer would
phase
have
like
had to
that.
been like
Yes.
coffee. I
Yeah.
mean, I guess the
Gotta do.
ideal option would always be my favorite breakfast food that I will eat at any period of the day is a bagel and lox.
Yes. Solid. What kind of bagel? Plain?
Uh, Either everything bagel or somewhere here has a garlic bagel
Ooh, that
that
sounds
has like
good.
garlic chips
Yeah.
on it. And then just like the standard cream cheese, capers,
Mhm.
salmon, dill.
Yeah. You can't go wrong, I think, with that kind of a thing. Like
Yeah,
it's solid. Excellent choices. All right.
thank you.
Fourth question. What are you reading right now that we should all add to our TBR?
It's my next book that's due next week that doesn't have any sort of presence online yet because it doesn't have a release date or a name.
Definitely. We're all
Um,
adding it right now.
yeah, everyone go at it. Um, I'm not reading anything right now because I have a deadline next week.
Okay.
But I did just I started no, I finished it. I read recently The Raven Scholar, The
Mhm.
Hanging City, and The Tainted Cup. Um,
All right.
so yeah, those three, I think if you're a fantasy fan.
Yeah, officially added. Doing it. Doing it.
The Raven Scholar is so good, but
Hmm.
it's very long, so you need some
Okay.
space.
That's fine. I tend to do longer books on audio anyways because I don't like holding them.
Hmm,
So if it's something that's
there.
more than 400 or 450 pages, I'm not touching it. Like just give me the audio.
Yeah. I can't do audio. I'll just zone it out.
Okay.
So I have so many physical books. The Devil Ambition has a wonderful audiobook though.
Oh, excellent.
It's I'm I'm sad I can't do audiobooks because I would love to listen to it in full and for
Hmm.
the first time read one of my books, but
Yeah.
um it just goes over my head when it's audio.
It is. It is a skill, I think. And just like some people can like vibe with it and it doesn't work for everybody. I love it. It's one of the only ways I've been able to keep up with my reading this past year and a half is just
Mm,
audiobooks. So, so yeah.
nice.
All right. Thank you so much. Scribblers, you can find Linsey on Instagram or by going to her website. Both are going to be linked down below in the description. Linsey, thank you again just for chatting with me. It has been an
Uh,
absolute delight. Anything you want to add?
Thank you so much for inviting me and letting me chat. Yeah, thank you. Good luck.
Thanks.
Writing is hard, but it's worth it. Um, you can find me on Instagram or Threads or
Yeah.
Tumblr if that's where you are.
Can they link
I'm
Tumblr off of your website?
Yeah,
Okay. All right.
yeah. Um, I have my real name on every website, so eventually I'll pop up, or it will be the one person on LinkedIn who shares the spelling of my name. She's like the VP of PR
Oh
or
my gosh.
something,
I'm actually
a real
I'm
job.
about to go add you on LinkedIn because my
It's not
network is
me.
very small. Oh wait,
It's
so you're
not
not on
me.
there at all? It's just somebody.
No, it's an actual real person with the
Right.
same spelling of my name
Okay.
who is
Fascinating.
popping up in Google search results more often now because she recently did a bunch of articles because she accomplished something at her job.
Okay.
And that's really cool, but
Yeah. No,
it's not me.
Lindsay Power. Lindsay Power. You guys are
Yeah,
awesome.
it's wild for me because I've never met anyone with the same spelling
Mhm.
of my name. So it's really fascinating for me to finally see someone with that spelling online.
Yeah, you would have been one of those kids that like never could find the keychain or the pencil or like the magnet.
Oh yeah. I
Yeah.
just accepted that no one would ever spell my name right, not through like any malfeasance, but just
Right.
they're expecting the other one.
Hmm.
They're expecting the more recognizable
Yeah.
spelling.
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense. Um, so yeah. All right. Scribblers, thank you so much for joining us. You know the drill. Please hit that like button, subscribe, and we will see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye, all.